Hi, I'm Dr. Melva, your board-certified radiation oncologist and serial entrepreneur and investor. Welcome to the 1% Code podcast. I help top income earners create multiple streams of income to support the career they love or the one they want to love again. Learn more on the 1% Code podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the 1% Code podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Melva Pinn-Bingham. I am a board-certified radiation oncologist, wife, mom of 3, serial entrepreneur, and investor, and I help top income earning professionals and other healthcare professionals create multiple streams of income. More specifically, I help them to create a passive stream of income, even if it's just one that can be leveraged, it's scalable, and it's built with infrastructure. How does that sound? Well, if that sounds like something that excites you, I'm so excited that you're here to listen to this episode of the 1% Code podcast. And if you've been a longtime listener, we launched on July 1st of 2021. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. And let's get to today's topic. So I wanted to talk to you about narrowing your focus, or let's change that. The title today is Narrow Your Focus. And this is actually the second time that I'm recording this podcast, and I have to share the story with you because I'm sure many of you can relate, as those of us who are busy professionals, or we take a lot of time and we're very efficient with our time blocking. Well, apparently I was quite too efficient and didn't have a sound check. So I recorded the first podcast and my virtual assistant was like, "So Dr. Melva, are you okay? Because you sound horrible." And I was like, "Oh, well, let me listen and see what happened." And I listened, and not only did I sound horrible, I think I woke up, I time blocked in the morning because I missed my normal podcasting time for a family event. And I guess I didn't have any water. And that voice you have when you first wake up? Yeah, I'm sure I didn't want to be in your ear with that. You would have missed everything because you would have just cut the podcast off and maybe even unsubscribed. So here we go, recording this again. I shouldn't have any alarms going off because it's actually the afternoon. I had a little bit of free time and I wanted to get in here and make this right. So thank you for listening. And hopefully my voice does not sound as horrible as it did that 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning edition that I did before. So I wanted to talk about narrowing your focus, and we're going to focus on 2 things today, okay? Perfectionism and the power of focus. The reason this is important is that we're coming into quarter 4 of the year. And if you look at your books, you look at your finances, you think about your goals, if you're not where you want to be, one of these 2 things is the problem, okay? The perfectionism or focus. So perfectionism, overthinking. Maybe you're like me. Maybe because you're somewhat or maybe hyper analytical, the way you look at activities, approaches, career decisions, multiple streams of income, you find yourself overthinking. Or maybe you're in a mastermind or a group, or you work with a bunch of colleagues and they tell you you're overthinking. Release this now, all right? When you get bogged down in the details, a lot of this is fear. And for some of us, it's fear of failure. And for others of us, it's fear of success. And what I want to tell you is that money loves speed and success loves speed. So what does that mean? That means that instead of being in a state of perfectionism, we need to commit to having and taking massive imperfect action. Okay, so the affirmation that really I had to get to the point of being okay with is that 50 to 75% is totally done. Another one was that version 1 or version done is better than version none, right? So it's this concept of making a decision, not overthinking, moving forward. And the reason this is important even more is that you only make money, you only generate profits when you take massive imperfect action. Even if you feel really, really excited, you don't get paid for your ideas, okay? You get paid when you execute and you sell your idea, when you sell your product or service, when you have that partnership or collaboration or joint venture, if we're saying, for example, something like real estate or some type of asset investment. That's when you get paid, not for the idea that you never took massive imperfect action on because you were stuck in perfectionism, because you were overthinking, because you were bogged down in details. Okay. Is this hitting home for anyone? I would love your feedback. If you're not already a part of my group at the 1% Code Collective, you can find that by going to doctormelva.com spelled out /group. I would love for you to come in, give me your feedback if you're listening to this episode. But perfectionism, my friends, is a mindset that we have to relieve now. Okay. Number 2, focus. And I'll be honest with you, this has been something that I've had on my working on list or list of weaknesses for pretty much most of my life. So it's always one of those things. I can do super powerful focus, and then I have other times in my life, it's kind of like a phase I go through where you would have no idea that I was focused at all. So I'm just being honest. Maybe you're the same way. But why is focus important, especially when we talk about creating additional streams of income or creating a passive source of income that we can leverage and scale? We have to start. And what I find that many other physicians, I'm a physician, or other top income earners are doing is that we're building too many bridges at once. You can only build one bridge at a time. When you're building multiple bridges, that's what leads to overwhelm. That's what leads to burnout. So let me ask you this question. How many bridges are you building right now? Okay. If you're not driving, if you just have a pen and paper, write them down. What are you building? For example, if I share with you what I was building, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want to continue listening to my podcast because I'm not only building one bridge, but I'm at that point now that I build one bridge at a time. So I have this accumulation of bridges, if that makes sense. So for example, we're multi-franchise owners. We own a Cold Stone Creamery. We own a Subway. We're currently going through the SBA funding process and investment, raising capital for partners on the second Cold Stone Creamery. That's really my main bridge that I'm building right now. And then, my husband's side, on the real estate investment side, we're going through the mechanical plans. It's a mixed-use commercial building. That's the focus. We just finished a fix and flip. And we also refinanced a long-term rental that we have with a lot of equity in it, actually. So that's a lot of different bridges. And even though I listed like 3 that you might find major things, I'm also a physician and mom of 3. We really got to the point that we focused at on one bridge at a time. So a lot of what I'm doing is leverage. For example, my virtual assistant saying that my voice sounded terrible. He's producing the podcast, I'm recording it, and he's doing all the graphics, the cutting, the editing. Shout out to you, Larlo. And he's making it happen. So that's not really taking my focus. So what I guess the message I want to send is that you can be involved in many things, but they have to be leveraged. And your focus on what bridge you're building, it needs to be one. And when you're building that bridge, your focus is there. That's where, if I define the focus, when I say focus, that's where you're, let's say in the beginning of an activity, in the middle of an activity, part of an income producing activity that requires you. Okay, so I can have multiple bridges being built, but I'm not building them. I'm not building them alone. And this is a lot of what I mean with that 1% code. How do you remove yourself? How do you scale? How do you bring in systems? Because if you don't have those 3 things, you're going to be building too many bridges at once. So I hope that really resonated. That's something you might have to listen to again. I know I talk really fast, but if you do find that you are building more than one bridge, or that you don't have the systems, the leverage, then what I want you to do is I want you to pick one that you're going to focus on first. Okay? Look at your current expertise, your skill set, your experience, and choose a focus that aligns with that. And then I want you to look at your passion and take into account the easiest and quickest to achieve, the least amount of financial or time barriers, so you're not overworking and you're not burning out when you're looking at creating an additional income stream. Okay, so too much leads to confusion. It leads to stress. And you're not going to have anyone buy your products, partner with you if it's obvious to them that you're building too many bridges. So narrow your focus. Working on anything, and this is just another side note, when we talk about profitability, we talk about adding tax shelters, tax protection, depreciation in real estate. When we talk about value add, when we talk about making sales, understanding your cash on cash returns, all those like fancy terms that any CPA law person or someone who's quite wealthy can just spew out. That's a challenge. Can you spew those out like that? I'm sure the list is more exhaustive and I'm not that great at doing it all the time. But to get to those numbers, working on anything that isn't doing these couple things that I'm going to list is not going to be profitable, is not going to help increase your bottom line of revenue. So if you find yourself building bridges on things other than these income producing activities in general, I want to ask you why. Like, why are you doing it? If it's a passion, if it's a hobby, if you just enjoy doing it, then that's fine. But if your goal is to add an extra $50,000, $100,000 to your wealth portfolio so that you can generate generational wealth, you can leave a legacy, you can start to maybe work less, whatever the reason is that you're looking for that leverage and scale and other stream of income, then you need to focus on these. So generating leads, right? So if you have a certain type of business, it doesn't matter if it's a coaching business, a brick and mortar business, if you're looking at doing real estate, you need something to buy, to sell, you have to generate leads in your business. The second is making sales. So if you're not making sales or booking consults, selling products or services, everything else is secondary. Your primary job and where the focus needs to be when you decide which bridge you are going to build is on generating leads and sales. Okay, so just remember, there's no bright or shiny objects. Pick one opportunity and pursue it. So I hope that this brief conversation on perfectionism and focus have really opened your eyes to what matters at the end of the day, what's going to move you forward, what's going to help you to be profitable, regardless of the vehicle that you choose for your income stream. And I'll tell you, narrowing your focus is along the lines of slowing down to speed up. It may seem really difficult to say no now. It may be difficult for you to file a folder of what you're doing now and maybe creating another one of what you're not doing now, and maybe adding a third folder of what you'll never do. That might be a really difficult exercise, but I will tell you, it will add speed and clarity to your bottom line. So I'm Dr. Melva, and I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of the 1% Code podcast. I would love to hear your feedback. Come join me in the 1% Code Collective. I go live every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard with a different topic of business that can help you to achieve that financial success that you're dreaming of while still working. All right, friends, talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the 1% Code podcast, please share with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating, and I would love your 5-star review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on all social media channels at Dr. spelled out DoctorMelva at Dr. Melva. And I want to make sure that you and anyone else you know that would benefit from the 1% Code podcast is a member of my private community on Facebook, the 1% Code Collective. I would love for you to join me there. Link in the bio. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.